My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are the Supreme Soul. If one meditates upon your transcendental body, you naturally protect him from all sources of fear, even the imminent danger of death. Should we do one by one or all together?
Yeah, we can take
one by one? Okay, please. 29. Oh, have I jumped? Did I jump a page? My apologies. Let's read 26. I jumped a page. Wow.
Lord Brahma said, O Supreme Lord of all lords, proprietor of the entire universe, O benedictor of all living entities, O original person, Adi Purush, because of our good fortune, we have now killed this sinful demon who was giving trouble to the entire universe.
This Hiranyakashipu received from you the benediction that he would not be killed by any living being within my mission. With this assurance and with strength derived from austerities and mystic power, he became excessively proud and transgressed all the way instructions.
By great fortune, Hiranyakashipu's son Prahlad Maharaj has now been released from death, for although he is a child, he is an exalted devotee. He is fully under the protection of your lotus feet.
My dear Lord, O Supreme Nadi of Godhead, you are the Super Soul. If one meditates upon your transcendental body, you naturally protect him from all sources of fear, even the imminent danger of death.
The personality of Godhead replied, My dear Brahma, O great Lord born from the lotus flower, just as it is dangerous to feed milk to a snake, so it is dangerous to give benedictions to demons, who are by nature ferocious and jealous. I warn you not to give such benedictions to any demon again.
Narada Muni continued, O Niteshwar, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is not visible to ordinary human beings, spoke in this way, instructing Lord Brahma. Then, being worshipped by Brahma, the Lord disappeared.
Prahlad Maharaj then worshipped and offered prayer to all the demon gods such as Brahma, Shiva, and the deities, who are all the part of lords.
That brings us to today's verse 33. Should we go into Sanskrit? Okay, so if you click on that. Okay. Tataha kavyadibhi sardham munibhi kamalasanaha daityanam danavanam cha praharadam akarot patim ततः काव्यादिभिः सार्धं मुनिभिः कामलासनः दैत्यानां दानवानां च प्रहरादम् अकरोत् पतिम् ततः काव्यादिभिः सार्धं मुनिभिः आसनः दैत्यानां दानवानां च प्रहरादम् अकरोत् पतिम् काव्यादिभिः सार्धं मुनिभिः कामलासनः दैत्यानां दानवानां च प्रहरादम् अकरोत् पतिम्. We can go ahead? Okay. So translation by His Loving Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, along with Shukracharya and other great saints, Lord Brahma, whose seat is on the lotus flower, made Prahlad the king of the demons and giants in the universe. Purport by His Loving Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By the grace of Nrsimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj became a greater king than his father Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad's inauguration was performed by Lord Brahma in the presence of other saintly persons and demigods. So again, it is my unlimited good fortune to be here. I sometimes think I'm the one benefiting from the association of such wonderful devotees as we experienced upstairs in the Aarti. So today, this particular section of the 7th canto is very fascinating because Nrsingadev came, did all his pastimes, and then he left. But to have a greater understanding of the pastimes, let's take it higher level. So 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, do you know what it's called? The English translation?
The creative impetus?
It's actually called the Science of God. The Science of God. You'll even see that in there. So the Science of God, which is very interesting because usually God is approached with devotion. There's sentiment there. Nowhere before have we found that there's a science to God. And that is the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's works, where you've got the self-realization. It's very scientific. 200 years ago, science was created to almost disprove, well, it was originally created to prove God, but then divided into there is a scientific path and there is a religious path. And the religious path is very much sentimental based. So the fact that this is the science of God, it is very. So it is not typically the science of you have a hypothesis, you create experiments, and then you prove your theory or disprove and it becomes a theory. This science is systematically understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the chapters are divided in such a way that you are naturally, systematically, and I would say scientifically understanding God. Because God is unlimited, we all know that. Yet He can be measured in certain aspects that our limited senses can actually appreciate and interact with Him. This particular chapter, chapter 10, is entitled Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. So Vishnu are exalted. But of all those exalted devotees, Prahlad is the best. Now, let's dive into why he could be the best. We all know he's one of the 12 Mahajans. And what of the 9 processes of devotional service, which one does he represent? Smaranam, remembrance, yes. 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 Please carry on. Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Very nice, thank you. So there are 9 processes of devotional service, and there's a leading acharya or a devotee who represents the way. An acharya is someone who shows by their acharan or example. So hence we use the word acharya. Prahlad, as I explained the last time also, Prahlad comes from the word prakrishta pena hlad, always happy. Now why is he always happy? Because he's always in smaranam of Lord Vishnu. And by the full smaranam of Lord Vishnu, his consciousness is completely immersed. So we've read previously that he was thrown in a pit of fire with his aunt. He was thrown in a pit, he was thrown off a cliff. In all those situations, he's fully conscious of Lord Krishna. And that's what makes him fully the topmost amongst the exalted devotees. I just want to turn one other personality. So Dasyam, does anyone know who represents that? Hanuman, yes. And it's in the similar understanding of Prahlad. So Hanuman is using all his abilities to Lord Ram. Excuse me. It's explained that in the war, both his hands were used to serve Lord Ram. And when the demons would hold on to his hands, he'd use his tail to whack them. So whatever abilities he has, he's using them in the service of Krishna. So there's so much that as sadhakas we can learn to be always constant in the state of remembering Krishna and using whatever we can in the service of Krishna. So we've spoken about Lord Nrsingadev. So he appeared. What did he do? He killed Hiranyakashipu. And then he established Prahlad Maharaj as the king of the demons. And he said in the later verses that you will be for an entire Manu. And we'll go into the timelines a little bit later. But both of these personalities and their actions are so perfect. Like Nrsingadev appears, kills the demons, and establishes the dharma. Paritranaya sadhinashaya dushkritam. So we see so many of the practical applications of Bhagavad Gita literally in these pastimes. So Krishna says in many places that he is Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Upadrishta Anumanta Cha, Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara, that he is the all controller. And we find that when all the devatas combined couldn't do something about one Hiranyakashipu, that's when Lord Nrsimhadev walks in and he solves the situation. So that again proves Krishna's to Bhagavan's. Of all the devatas, there's a finite limit in what they can actually do. And Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsimhadev, is ultimately infinite. So Srila Prabhupada explained that the Bhagavad Gita is the theoretical blueprint of life. So, like you buy a product and that product comes with a blueprint or a user guide. So within this life, the Bhagavad Gita is the blueprint of life. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of various topics, all Gunas, Ishvara, Prakriti, Jiva, Kala and Karma, the 5 themes. And we find that the Bhagavad Gita is that theoretical baseline, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is like case studies of the application of that knowledge. So each chapter in all the 12 cantos, you will find so many practical applications, how that knowledge is actually applied in real life. And it is also very important to note that Srila Prabhupada's purports are very simple and they're very scientific in that they make reference to Bhagavad Gita. You don't find Srila Prabhupada sentimentally just saying anything like, I think it must be this, I think, no. In the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, Krishna says this, 9.2, Krishna says this, and therefore that pastime is clarified. And that is the real beauty of Srila Prabhupada and many scholars. So when you look back of the Bhagavad Gita, there's many scholars who make reference to Srila Prabhupada's teaching as one of the topmost in the, in the world. Now I remember there was one particular person many years ago who met me and he realized I'm part of ISKCON. But he didn't know much about ISKCON, but he knew a lot about other Hindus. So he said, oh, you're part of the Bhaktivedanta mission. And I said, no, it's called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, and that really got me very interestedly contemplating about, because you've got, I won't name names, we all know, we've got the various missions out there. This mission, that mission, all part of Hinduism and Vedic culture. But Srila Prabhupada established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he kept Krishna in the center. And you'll find throughout his purports, throughout his life, throughout his lectures, he's always keeping Krishna in the center. And it is again our good fortune that we are following in his path and learning from him. So that is a perfect example of Krishna. Now, when we look at the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, and you look at his learnings, Krishna says so many things about how a devotee should be. The qualities of a devotee are described in the Bhagavad Gita. And the fact that a devotee is always surrendered unto Krishna. Manmanam bhavamad bhakto, madhyajimam namaskaro. That appears twice in the Bhagavad Gita. And the whole context is practically applied by Prahlad Maharaj. And they are, whoever carries those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. All of that was exemplified by Prahlad Maharaj. So it is a perfect nation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and a pure devotee. And the pastimes that are supremely perfect. So if we understand this and we try and emulate and emanate a lot of the teachings, it will be very beneficial to us. But one thing I found very interesting, and I found a lot of the devotees were smiling, it's explained that in this verse, Brahma was very happy and pleased. And he was saying that, phew, finally things are resolved. I don't know if you've had any experience, but in your childhood, if you did something, you pushed a sibling and they fell over, something else fell, and there was utter chaos, and your parents came and they were very angry. And when the anger kind of fizzled out, whew, you felt, things are sorted out. That's nothing compared to what Lord Brahma would have felt. Again, he's the eminent acharya of our line. So I say this very respectfully. But Brahma must have felt like a child in front of a very angry parent, Nrsimhadev. We read in the previous verses that Nrsimhadev was so angry, no one could even go in front of him. All the devatas were like, we cannot speak to him. We've never seen the Lord like this. So they asked Lakshmi Devi, you go and pacify him. And Lakshmi Devi said, this is my husband. I serve his lotus feet every day, but I have never seen him this angry. So he is the personification of anger. Now, why would he be the personification of anger? I mean, Hiranyakashipu did many things, but the Supreme Lord will never tolerate offenses against his devotees. So if we can take one thing away from Hiranyakashipu, and there are chapters where Hiranyakashipu Uvacha and his verses I said, we're not learning like that. We're learning from his example where Hiranyakashipu did all offenses that he could, but the key offense that he made was offending Prahlad Maharaj. So Brahma, again, he was happy because he also realized that, as the supreme controller, Krishna is the ultimate controller, and he is a secondary creator. He's the oldest living entity in this universe, but he is powerless when it comes to things that are out of his control. So even if you are the topmost Devata, you are powerless in front of Lord Vishnu. And therefore, the Shatari that's put on our heads, when Nanivas Prabhu came, did everyone get a chance to that Shatari? What does that look like? It looks like a crown, right? Do you know what's on top of the crown? Lotus feet of the Lord. And it's explained that when the Shatari is given, the verses that are chanted are Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyata. We know the whole translation of that, but the verse's essence is that you can become the topmost Devata, and hence you wear a crown on your head of Brahma. You will still be under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is a very important thing, that we can become whatever we become. We all have, various services. We can take significant roles, managers, leaders. It's nothing compared to Brahma, and even Brahma is subservient to Lord Vishnu. So it's a very, very important thing for us to remember. So we read here today, Nrsimhadev disappeared from the vision of the devotees. That's how the verse concluded. Then Prahlad Maharaj was made the king. So where did he go? Well, he has an eternal residence in Vaikuntha. We've seen the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very nice painting. There are Vaikuntha planets. So each planet has an expansion or an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and that's a planet for them. But it's explained in our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition that as Nrsimhadev was going back home, he decided to make a stop. He decided to make a stop where? In Navadvip Dham. There's a place called Narsimhapali. And it is explained at that time, millions of years ago, this is Satya Yuga, right? The Mandakini Ganga would flow through there. And Lord Nrsimhadev stopped there because he wanted to see. He said, today I destroyed the most powerful demon in the creation. And in Kali Yuga, I'm going to give that same demon, love of Godhead. Even the Supreme Lord was like, how is that actually possible? So he stopped there to see the place, to take in the presence of the place. And it's explained that he washed his hands there after he ripped out Hiranyakashipu, and he washed his hands there. There's a very beautiful temple of Nrsimhadev. There's a very old Prachin deity of Nrsimhadev there. In the subsequent verses, we'll be told, so Jay and Vijay came, they were cursed by the four Kumaras. They flew the various layers of the material creation. It's very beautifully described. Then they took form as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And even there, it's a very explanation of, so they were twins, right? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. But Hiranyaksha entered the womb first, or Hiranyakashipu entered the womb first. But Hiranyaksha took birth first. But birth starts from the womb. So Hiranyakashipu entered the womb first of Mother Aditi, and therefore he was the elder brother. So he was killed, Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, and then they take birth, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and they are killed by Lord Ram, and then they take their third birth, which was the third curse that they had, or a curse that the third birth was. So the Bhagavatam says Shishupal and Dantavakra, and again they were killed by then in Lord Chaitanya's pastime they take birth as Jagai and Madai. The same demons who were completely annihilated, destroyed, were given love of Godhead. So how fortunate are we to be connected with Lord Chaitanya, where, at least in my case, I know how sinful I am, and I'm taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So In the 8th, that same personality of Godhead appears and gives Krishna Prem freely. Pastime of Nrsimhadev appears in many Puranas, and there are many pastimes around this appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev from pillar. There was one devotee who gave a class, and he said there was a time where, many yuga cycles ago, that Nrsimhadev actually appeared on the back of Garuda. Prabhu, do you know that? I tried to search, I haven't found that. But
no.
No? Yeah. So
it's not mentioned
in any of the Puranas, right?
I don't know. In
Yeah.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there is different mentions of how it comes,
Yes.
but this is not mentioned.
That's not, on the back of Garuda. So he was explaining that Hiranyakashipu was sitting in his palace with all his followers, and they were glorifying him, and they were saying, Hiranyakashipu, we love you. And he was just enjoying that, and Nrsimhadev came and completely ripped apart. So Nrsimhadev's pastimes are mentioned in every single Purana. All the main Puranas of the top 6 of them that are in the mode of goodness. And it's explained that before Krishna and Lord Ram appeared on this planet, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was worshipped in the form of Nrsimhadev. So all our original temples that you find across the world, well, now a lot of them have disappeared and are left in India. A lot of them have Nrsimhadev deities as the original deities. If you go to Jagannath Puri, between Puri and Gundicha, there's a very old, very beautiful Nrsimhadev temple. And there's a new deity, but if you're fortunate enough and you ask the pujari, they'll actually remove the garland and the cloth and show you behind this the original Nrsimhadev, which Lord Brahma had installed as part of the yajna to bring Jagannath in to this world. So Nrsimhadev is very important. Again, in our lives as devotees, how can we relate to Nrsimhadev? Srila Prabhupada has introduced the chanting of Nrsimha prayers to help give protection of us. We all know the very beautiful pastimes of Mayapur where devotees were attacked. Devotees actually took up weapons and guns. These Brahmins, soft devotees were protecting the deities. And one of our prominent senior leaders, Bhakti Raghav Maharaj, actually lost a leg in that fight. And after that, the devotees then installed Nrsimhadev, the Ugra Nrsimha. And when the devotees actually drew and described, we want a form of Nrsimhadev who's actually just leapt out of the pillar. And they took that to one of the top sculptors. The sculptor was like, this deity is nowhere on this planet. And it's only in higher planets. Only pure souls are able to worship them. And somehow he was revealed through his guru that no, ISKCON is the right devotee to serve this form of Nrsimhadev. And Nrsimhadev appeared in very, very beautiful pastime. There's a little book, I recommend you read that. In the interest, I'll carry on. So then explained in conclusion that Prahlad Maharaj was given the benediction to rule over the demons and the giants for an entire Manu. A little bit on that and look at the flow of time. Maybe I'll look at the whiteboard. So which yuga are we in right now? We all know, Kali Yuga. And before that was? Dwapar Yuga. And before that? Treta Yuga. Before that, Satya Yuga. So the cycle right now is Satya, if I may. The cycle is Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali, right? And it's explained that there's a reset that happens here. And after this reset, the cycle continues, the cycle starts. So see it not as a start and end, but see it as a cyclical thing. But do you know, typically, the cycle that happens is Satya, Dwapar, Treta and Kali. And there are various reasons why this switch was made. And it's explained that one day, in 1 day of Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears. And he appears in his original form. And that's one of the reasons. But another reason which, as devotees, we should meditate on is when Ahilya was cursed. We all know the pastimes of Ahilya, right? Anyone here not know Mother Ahilya? Everyone knows. So Ahilya was cursed that she'll become a stone and only Lord Ram will be able to deliver her. And this is something that devotees really meditate and derive a lot of joy from. One of the reasons why the cycle was switched, because Lord Ram in Satya Yuga felt this devotee is waiting for me and calling for me in her heart genuinely. And he's helpless when a devotee calls. The Supreme Personality of God, when a devotee genuinely calls the Lord is helpless. And it's explained, Lord Ram said, Krishna, wait, I'll go first. Let me go first and deliver Ahilya because this is too much. So that's one of them. But in each yuga, there's a yuga avatar. We all know there are Leela avatars. There's Guna avatars, the 3 Guna avatars. There's Shakta Vesha avatars like Parashuram. Then there's Manvant avatars. So there are 14. So this is one yuga cycle. It's called a Divya Yuga or a Mahayuga. And 1,000 of those are called a Kalpa. And that 1,000 of those cycles is one day or daytime or 12 hours in the day of Lord Brahma. Now in each of those, there are all these incarnations. And in Satya Yuga, Lord Nishingadev appears at time. And therefore you have so many of these pastimes here. So in 1,000 of these yuga cycles, there are 14 manus. Each manu roughly has 71 cycles, Mahayugas. And that leaves roughly 6 Mahayugas as the Sandhya. So in the time of the universe, we've had unlimited incarnations. It's explained by our 6 Goswamis that the number of waves in the ocean, if you count those, it's obviously uncountable, it's endless. That's the same in terms of Lord's incarnations, unlimited incarnations. And so it's explained that we are in which Manu? 7th Manu. And the name of our Manu is? Vivaswan, yes. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says he gave this knowledge to Vivaswan. And that is our... So Prahlad was given the kingdom of a Manu, but it's not explained in this which Manu. But we'll read in the 8th canto after this that Bali then became the king of the demons. So that Manvantar is last. So again, even as a devotee, when we surrender ourselves to Krishna, the first consciousness is, I have to give up something to surrender to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada has explained so many times, when you surrender to Krishna, when you give yourselves to Krishna, you are the ultimate winner. We see in the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, he said, I don't want anything after Lord Vishnu. I don't want anything. It's like the diamonds I was begging for are like shattered glass now that I'm seeing you, my Lord. So I think the essence, and I'll wrap here, the essence of everything we've learned today. So the Supreme Lord appears, as he has explained in the Bhagavad Gita. He establishes religion. The first thing he does is paritranaya sadhana, to deliver his devotees. That's his priority. Like in our world, our work world, we've got priorities, we've got KPIs. Krishna's first KPI is he just is worried about his devotees. Killing the demons, even his glance can do that. He can step up Hiranyakashipu's heart as the super soul and boom, he'll die. So killing is that important. Loving the devotee and protecting the devotee is important. As Prahlad, he's constantly in remembrance of Krishna. And Lord Brahma, our founder of our movement, was very happy after all things are out. So there's so much we can learn from this pastime, but I want to pause and open up for some questions. And please share your realizations and reflections so I can benefit. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, you mentioned that Krishna will never tolerate offenses committed against his devotees.
Yes.
But we see that Hiranyakashipu put Prahlad Maharaj through so much.
Yes.
Why didn't Lord Krishna, like, I know we read that Lord Krishna was always protecting Prahlad Maharaj, but
Yes.
why didn't he
Immediately.
Why did it take so long?
So there could be various understandings for it. There's obviously a particular time that the Lord has to appear. So the timing wasn't right. There's also sometimes explained that particular papa, the sinful activities that needed to reach a particular threshold. But also it's explained that the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, he went through so many of these sufferings. That is an extreme learning for all of us. So the timing is perfect. The other thing someone asked me was, so it's explained by our acharyas that Jay and Vijay are personal associates of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu was feeling a little bit of a, everyone is worshipping me, I actually want a bit of a fight, let's have a bit of a wrestling match. But he won't do that with anyone, he'll do that with his pure devotees. So it's explained, why would Krishna put all those people through so much trouble just because he wanted to have a fight? So it's understood that he can do multiple things in one way. So Hiranyakashipu, being the king of the demons, took over the entire universe. He put a lot of people through misery. A lot of the Jivatmas went through a lot of misery. And those miseries were their karmic reactions, which they were assigned under Hiranyakashipu to receive those. So it's multiple aspects that are being fulfilled all together at once. But I think the principle that we need to understand, when we interact with devotees, our consciousness must be that, let's not really offend devotees. Again, in that we don't actually lose our natures and not be who we are because, I'll offend a devotee. But our consciousness should be that, I want to serve devotees and not offend devotees. The main principle takeaway.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for such a great, beautiful class. My question was around the mention of Shukracharya and other great saints. So, when we hear Shukracharya, it's mostly in a negative context,
Yes.
especially around one avatar.
Yes.
So, can you maybe sort of throw some light on why the Shukracharya and the great saints mentioned in the same sentence?
That's a good point. So Shukracharya is the Daitya Guru. So he's the Guru of the Daityas. And we find throughout the lineage of all the demons, all the way down to Ravana, Bali, Shukracharya was the Guru of the Daityas. That's his service to Krishna. So this material world it's a world of duality. There's always good and bad. Previously there was good and bad in different planets. Then they moved to the same planet and in the following yuga. Then they moved into the same sea. And now we have good and bad within individuals. So we have to see it in that sense that this duality has to be maintained in the Daityas. And Shukracharya is there performing that function. But Prahlad Maharaj is a great saint and Vaishnava. So he represents the Vaishnavas, but he also represents the Daityas. So he's there as his Kul Guru almost. Shukracharya is there. Other great saints are there knowing that Prahlad is a Mahajan. So they're there performing that function together. And the consciousness of Shukracharya is to elevate the Daityas rather. But his consciousness is not to make offensive or do something negative. That's his responsibility. So that's his responsibility to Krishna. And I think the fact that the others are involved, other great saints are involved, we have to see it in that light. Thank you. Prabhu.
In the previous verses, you mentioned that 21 generations of Prahlad Maharaj were delivered immediately.
Yes.
Then why didn't Hiranyakashipu got delivered immediately?
Because they had more pastimes to perform for the Lord, facilitate those pastimes. The one understanding is 21 generations, so it is the current generation, 10 generations, last 10 generations in the future. So that inculcates 21 generations. But Hiranyakashipu ultimately did get delivered, right? To fulfill the curse of the four Kumaras and also fulfill pastimes. Without Ravana and Kumbhakarna, there would be no Ramayana, right? There wouldn't be no ecstasy in that pastime. So it's fulfilling multiple functions all together. And he ultimately did get delivered.
Yes. Also, one of the Prabhus was giving class and he mentioned like somebody who was kind of unknowingly he obsessed on Narsingha Chaturdashi and became Prahlad Maharaj in this next slide. That was mentioned, right? So I was like,
So it could be, yeah, but
what they say like only somebody who is Nitya Siddha, they take such kind of pure devotees avatar. And if they are not Nitya Siddha, then Krishna doesn't send them to material.
Maybe that could be true, but there could be, Nitya Siddhas are eternally liberated. But there are pastimes where, like in the Brahma Vaivarta Puran, it's explained that Prahlad was a Brahmana, a great devotee in his last life, but he made offenses to other Brahmanas and they cursed him, you'll be born as a demon. But then he got the opportunity to grow in his devotion and completely surrender to Krishna. That's one pastime. But remember, there are multiple cycles, and each cycle, Lord Nrsingadev appears. Wow, Nrsingadev appears. That was timing. So Nrsingadev appears, and there could possibly be that. I'm not refuting, but in the Bhagavatam, there is no such mention that he was a regular person, observed the fast and Ekadashi fast. When you read the various benedictions of Ekadashi fasting, there are many amazing benedictions given. And I don't know if there is one of Prahlad Maharaj.
It was Chaturdashi.
Chaturdashi?
Narsinga Chaturdashi.
Oh, of Narsinga Chaturdashi, not Ekadashi. Sorry, I mixed it together. I don't know, I've not heard that. Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned like, let's say all the demons. At one point of time they were devotees. That's how got the boons from the lords. Like they meditating upon God's name, they were chanting. Like even most of the books they explain like Ravan was a devotee to Lord Shiva.
Yes.
And there are so many demons that got the boons in such a way only.
Yes.
So how like how could we know we like at one point of time anyone can be devotee and can reach at some, I'm not saying that level, but can reach that level, and then those five like what do you call that thing, ego, like
Yes.
all those things can come into them. Like how could you control those things? Because at one point of time Hiranyakashipu was also a devotee, and then ego and all those things surrounded
Right.
him that made him a demon, that think that he is the supreme being. And
Right.
so
That's a
there
nice
must be-
question. That's a really nice question, and I think it's more on it's a technical understanding of the word devotee.
Yeah.
So Hiranyakashipu performed tapasya. Let's use Sanskrit words which are a little more easy to understand. He performed austerities, tapasya, to please Lord Brahma, but he didn't become a devotee of Brahma. Same way Ravana performed austerities for Lord Shiva, but I mean his arrogance was that he wanted to lift up Kailash. So what kind of devotion is that? So a devotee is someone who's a bhakta. And a bhakta, described by Rupa Goswami, has anya bhilashita shunyam, no desire except to please the Lord. Now all these demons are tapasya, to attract powers, material powers, siddhis basically. So don't see that as devotion. So many times I think, especially in worship any devata, it's seen as bhakti. But it could be, but it's all determined by the individual's intention internally. If the intention is, I want to draw powers, it's explained that Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama, thank you, Mother. Ashwatthama came to Krishna in Dwarka and said, Krishna, please give me a Sudarshan Chakra. And Krishna said, sure, here you go. What do you want to do with it? And Ashwatthama said, I want to kill you with it. So can you imagine? You're approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, asking for Sudarshan, and Krishna was going to give him, you take. He just obviously couldn't handle it. He was going to kill. Though so many of the demons who worship Lord Shiva wanted to get his wife. We know that past time. So when a Jivatma approaches a Devata, we have to see what is the intention, and that intention determines whether it's a tinge of devotion or it's absolutely materialistic. Materialistic, I want all the powers, I want all your weapons, and with that will disrupt the material systems. So that's the difference between a devotee and someone who's taking to a devata to extract material powers. I think even in ISKCON, the word devotee is sometimes used, and then you use bhakta. And I remember many years ago, there was a whole discussion about Bhakta Prahlad. Why do we say Bhakta Prahlad? Because a new devotee who comes, we say Bhakta. Bhakta this, Bhakta Krishna Das, Bhakta this. And then we're saying, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. And then we're like, wait, that's Prahlad, he's a Mahajan. It's again context of those linguistic words that we use, the syntax. So Bhakta and Bhakti, it's very contextual to what's the intention, what is the bhakti. So see it in that light, that when someone approaches great devatas for powers, it's not really bhakti. But if I can read between the lines, your concern is that we're all devotees. If we get overpowered by ego and then we start becoming like this. So that's a very good sentiment to have. And I think the importance is stay true to sadhana and the principles. And that's why the system that Srila Prabhupada gave us, every day reading Bhagavatam, every day doing our japa very sincerely. And our japa is praying, my Lord, please purify me. Please, Radharani, please, Krishna, engage me in your service. That uplifts the consciousness. It destroys the ego. So the mantra was the mind, the shastra clears the intelligence, and serving devotees helps the ego go down. because we realize these are the most exalted. We heard Prahlad Maharaj is the top of the exalted devotees. Everyone here is exalted. There's 6 million people in Toronto and there's only all of us here reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all of you are very exalted. And staying in the association of devotees helps keep the ego in check. So the structure that Srila Prabhupada has given, just follow that and you'll be fine. Jai. Antariksh Prabhu, then Monu Prabhu, yes.
Just kind of
Yes.
what you just said, maybe I misunderstood it. Bhakti, like with those, we worship them with material motivation only. I mean, there's no bhakti for them, or only bhakti is done for Krishna.
It depends. It depends. Sometimes I just think personally, in my experience, that in the West, those who want to take to bhakti and they come to ISKCON are very fortunate. They've got the shortcut straight to Goloka Vrindavan. In the rest of the world, there's a bit of a confusion. Bhakti, at times, there are many devotees of Lord Vishnu in ISKCON and outside of ISKCON, Vaishnavas, who didn't know who the Supreme Person of Godhead is. Like there's a particular pastime in one of the cantos where one rishi was doing tapasya and he called Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. And when all of them came and he said, you please decide whoever of you is the Supreme and I worship you. So without knowledge, some devotees sometimes worship Lord Shiva as Lord Shiva is the Supreme. And if their bhakti has some goodness in them, Lord Shiva connects them to devotees. And same with all the devas. If there's a genuine seeking, I want to seek the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but I haven't read the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know devotees, I don't know ISKCON. But I really want to access the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those devatas, that's their responsibility. They will connect them to devotees. And you'll see so many examples. I know who were Shaivites, intense Shaivites. And they were developing that devotion to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva connected them to devotees. And they became like, wow, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they have eternal gratitude to Lord Shiva for that. So that's the context of bhakti. It's again the intention. It's the bhavana and intention, and Lord Krishna will sort everything out. Again, Lord Shiva has established a Vaishnava parampara. So he knows exactly when a Vaishnava is confused and is coming to him, Lord Shiva will direct him right to devotees.
Then Brahma, did his intellect not work while giving the benediction? Did he not we know the intention of the person?
Yes.
Didn't he have that? Did he sense
that's a very, again, contentious issue, because there are many times people think, we should just become devatas, we should become demigods. Like I'll give you the pastime in the Mahabharata, when Kunti Devi learned that mantra to attract any devata to give her a child. She thought, let me test this out. So she called Surya, and Surya came, and she said, oh my God, please, you go, I've tested the mantra. He said, no, I'm bound by this mantra. You've called me through this mantra, or I have to give you that benediction. And therefore Karna was born. When Hiranyakashipu was performing the tapasya and Lord Brahma came, that's his service to the Lord. That's his devata function. He has to give those benedictions. Same with Lord Shiva. And Lord Krishna tells Lord Shiva in dialogues in Mahabharata that, why do you give these benedictions? We heard Nishingadev also go, why do you give these benedictions? Just don't do that. But that is, Lord Nishingadev is obviously treated like a parent would be like, just don't do that. Be nice to your sibling. In the same way, Nishingadev is telling, but that is their function. And in even Lord Shiva, it's explained that once you do tapasya, you have to get a phalashruti. You have to get the results. Jayadrat performed the tapasya. And he wants the Pandavas. Lord Shankar came and said, I can't do that. But because you've done this tapasya, I have to give you something. And the result will be you'll be able to defeat 4 Pandavas except Arjuna. And the whole pastime of Abhimanyu happened. So the devatas they have to give that benediction. But it causes a disruption. But Krishna integrates everything. So all the people get their karmic reactions, and then Krishna has his point. Thank you. Monu Prabhu, Hare Krishna. I'll come to you, bro.
My question is related to Arjuna's question.
Yes.
He said that the Lord will not tolerate sins against a devotee, right? What happens when a devotee commits sins against another devotee? And if we are the third person seeing that, what should we do?
Very intense question. And when a devotee commits an offense to another devotee, Again, in the seat, let's try and analyze it in a simple way. When a parent sees their children fighting, the parent is deeply disturbed. So Krishna is not happy, obviously, when a devotee offends a devotee. And that devotee who made the offense, again, I don't know, it's very contextual, but if you just take your scenario that you've drawn, if the devotee offended another devotee, there will be reactions. And we've pastime of Lord Chaitanya, there's so many things that happen. They get leprosy, and it's problematic. So the Bhakti Achar course explains that when you see a devotee and another devotee in a tussle, and there's offenses happening, you have to walk away very. Do not take sides. Do not be involved. Get to a higher authority to help alleviate the situation, because ultimately both of them are going to go down. So your responsibility is to step away, not hear, not be involved. Check your consciousness, guard your consciousness very carefully, raise it to ears and help them sort it out. But no one is exempt from Vaishnava. Yeah. Sorry, Prabhu had I'll to you. Hare Krishna.
So from Prahlad Maharaj, you mentioned that Smaran and consciousness.
Sorry,
Smaran and consciousness help to protect him from the demon. So considering that, like in Kali Yuga, that means Smaran and consciousness will help to. So this question is, will that improve our person's destiny?
100%, yes.
And isn't that what's in Bhagavad Gita, that everything is written as per already written what's going to happen?
But where in the Bhagavad Gita say that?
It doesn't say that.
So we perform karmas and we get reaction to those karmas. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says we don't have a right to the fruits, a right to perform action. So nothing is actually completely predestined, because a jivatma has a free will. So you have the free will to choose what you want to do. It's a bit of a mixed understanding. If everything was absolutely predestined, there's actually a chapter in the Bhagavatam called Ajkara Yoga, where one would just sit there like a python and say, if I am to eat, that food will come to me like a python. And they just wait and they eat. So there are various philosophical systems that promote these or propagate these teachings, but nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita it says it's absolutely fixed. What you're getting to is when you have a pile of karma, it's explained by Srila Prabhupada and in the Nectar of Devotion that when you perform bhakti, and the bhakti can be any of the 9 forms of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Smaranam is what Prahlad Maharaj is. So we're constantly remembering Krishna. It burns up the pile of karmas, and it even burns the bija. So even the karma that is in the form of a seed that will grow and later on give you fruit, all of that will be destroyed. But even there, it's very contextual, dependent on the intensity of your devotion, dependent on the purity of your practice, and dependent on the consistency with which you do it. What happens is, outside of these, there are things called, so outside of your karma, which is easily, like you perform one pradakshina of tulsi, brahma hatyadikani cha, tani pranashyanti padakshina prade pade. So you take one step, pradakshina around tulsi, you burn all the karma of even killing a brahmana. In the month of Kartik, you offer one lamp to Damodar, you burn more karma than you actually commit. So karma is not really a worry. Outside of that is curses, shapa. There are devotees who have curses from previous lives, and there's so many claims through which they suffer. And then outside of that is offenses, aparadha. Our suffering is based on a number of these layers, but also this material world is a place of suffering. So to try and analytically understand karma and suffering, it's not there. But have the faith that, in the words of Srila, that you perform devotional service, Krishna consciousness, with intensity, with purity, without offense, following his process of chanting Hare Krishna, reading the Bhagavatam, the devotees, your destiny will be changed 100%. And we know many devotees who are astrologically predicted to go a certain direction and live this life. It can all change because Krishna is the ultimate controller.
Is there a book specifically I can read about this?
Start with Bhagavad Gita. Start with Bhagavad Gita. You'll get all the knowledge there. Even before that, there are simpler ones, Nectar of Instruction, Ishopanishad. But because you're asking specifically about karma, the fourth chapter, Karma Yoga, just have a read of it.
I read, but the words are too much.
Too much, yeah. Transcendental manifestations. And when that happens, just continue reading. Because the purity of Srila Prabhupada's purports and the power that he's invested in there. Srila Prabhupada said, I've put all my spiritual ecstasies in the purport. And many devotees, when they start reading, they're like, what is this? Transcendental manifest. You have to have a dictionary with you, and even there it's so hard to, but just keep reading, the purification will happen. Because you're worshipping Krishna with intelligence. He says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Jai. So there are a few more questions. If devotees need to go, please go. We can continue.
Just one last thing for me.
Oh, Hari,
Since you know the book, you were about to mention a book on Narasimha or something, but you didn't mention. It's like on the books of Lord Narasimha.
It's a very small book from Mayapur. Is there? Janani Prabhu bought those? The packets that they bought, yeah. It's a very thin book. It must be like 20 pages thin.
What's the name?
What's the name? I don't know.
It's just like a pamphlet.
Yeah.
It's a book. It's like 3-4 pamphlets together.
Oh no, that's maybe a different one. So Devanshimari, there's actually a book. Prabhu, do you know the name? It's not isn't a, but I think it says Lord Nrsimhadev, and there's a picture of Lord Nrsimhadev in Mayapur and his deity. And in that, there's a whole that deity appeared, and then some recent pastimes, like just in the past 20 years of devotees who had problems, they went to Nrsimhadev, and it just completely annihilated that. There was one pastime a devotee was saying, looking at Nrsimhadev and said, is this Krishna or is this different? Then he looked, so Nrsimhadev is there, Madhav is there, then he looked at Madhav and he saw Nrsimhadev's face there. Then he looked and he saw Madhav's face there. So this Nrsimhadev is showing that I'm non-different. There's a very beautiful pastime of a pujari, if I may, for just 1 minute. Very ecstatic, where a pujari came and he was worshipping Nrsimhadev, but he was very, he's like, this is Ugra Nrsimha. Like, you look at his, and I know the devotee who's Nrsimhadev's dentist, who has created Nrsimhadev's teeth. And so this devotee is very scared, so he's like shaking, offering his puja. So then at night, and this was 20 years ago when a lot of people weren't coming into Mayapur, so he offered puja. He closed the altar very quickly and then went to his rooms. And he's sleeping there, and he's just very scared of Nrsimhadev. Then in the middle of the night, his bed starts, and he's like, what is happening? And he wakes up, there's Nrsimhadev sitting on his chest. And he starts to panic, and Nrsimhadev puts his arms on, Nrsimhadev's arms on his shoulders and puts him on. He says, just relax. With his deep voice, just relax. When you worship me, you don't to worship. Yeah. Is it that one? The cover I have is different. But so Nrsimhadev tells him, you don't need to worry when you worship me. And this devotee then got so ecstatic, he ran to the temple. And he's in his gamcha. And he's, offering obeisance. Mangala Arati is happening, devotees are coming, they're looking, what's going on? And he's, Nrsimhadev. And he's just fumbling. Then he tells Pankajangri Prabhu and Janani Prabhu what happened. And he had scars of Nrsimhadev's nails on his body. So, imagine that. So this is very, this is all, what you're doing is all, sentimental. Absolutely not. There's real science here. And that's I think this is the one. So that's the sculptor. And when he had created of Nrsimhadev in South India, he had him in a hut. And he told the devotees of ISKCON, you please come and take Nrsimhadev, but it was the rainy season. And he said, you know what, I'll call them later. So he goes to his in-laws, and it's the rainy season. And someone calls him and says, your entire hut is on fire. So Nrsimhadev is there, and he's like, oh my God, he runs the entire hut where Nrsimhadev is completely ashes. And Nrsimhadev is waiting, like, get me to Mayapur. All of them devotees like, come take your Nrsimhadev, he's burning up everything. So it's a very, very beautiful Nrsimhadev, yeah. So we'll pause here. Oh, there was one more question, sorry. Ravina Prabhu.
So Prabhu, we discussed what happens if somebody commits an offense to a devotee, what happens when it's an offense to another devotee, but what happens if we commit an offense to ourselves? How does Lord Krishna that? What can we do about it?
Commit an offense to ourselves.
Is that possible to commit, like, do something that is harmful to ourselves? How does Lord Krishna react?
So that wouldn't be in the category of aparat. That might be in the category, or you're affecting your self-esteem, your negative talk on yourself that I'm not good enough, I'm not a sincere devotee. Krishna will send inspiration if our intention is, Krishna, I have all these anarthas, please help me. So in all situations, turn to the Supreme Lord in a prayerful mood through Srila Prabhupada, and whatever help you need will come. But just know, basic of Krishna consciousness, we're not the what?
God.
We are the soul, spirit soul. So what body are you in? A human body, right? Any devatas here? Any devatas here? Maybe. So in a human form, a human form has all human proclivities and shortcomings. So you will go through that. And we have a mind that is trained for millions of lifetimes where, ups will happen. We will slip and fall, but just get up, just keep going. Stay on the bus, as they say, stay on this moving train or this vehicle. Don't jump off because you feel like, I've fallen. You will slip, you will fall, just get up and keep going. The Lord is ultimately merciful. And if you call sincerely, like Ahilya, like Vallabh Maharaj and Smaranam, all the mercy of the Lord is always for you. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
I just have last question.
Yes, Prabhu.
As you mentioned about
Can
materialistic things,
I? Yes.
and if our culture is to obey our elders, correct?
Yes.
Even doesn't matter they are our right, obey them,
Yes.
respect them.
Yes.
But when it comes to like you like pranam, you do pranam to them, they give you a blessing of materialistic things.
Yeah.
So then how come like it's rather than having materialistic things, shouldn't it be
Spiritual,
devotional,
yeah.
spiritual blessings or devotional blessings, like be in the lotus feet of Lord Krishna?
Yeah.
So
Well, that depends on the parent, right?
so far I have seen
Yeah.
in my life.
So blessings are given according to the ability of the parent, the one giving the blessings. Hiranyakashipu asked Brahma, make me immortal. Brahma said, I have that to give you because I myself am immortal. So, parents give blessings, but again, that account of blessings is actually with Krishna. So it's not with you and the parents. If the parent says, Vita Jitero, it's like, that's not it. Because your intention is, I'm worshipping, or I'm offering my respects to my parents who are my first gurus, representatives of Radha and Krishna. If that's your intention, whatever blessing, material blessing they give, Krishna can augment that anytime. But yes, parents should ideally be giving spiritual blessings. Like you take things from devotees, they will tell you, may your japa improve, may you enter the dham, and those kind of things. And again, those are the senior devotees. Like Janani Vasaprabhu was blessing you, please come to my book. When Janani Vasaprabhu says that, it's going to happen. So when we grow up and become parents, if we are, the blessings must always be connected to Krishna. And again, we are not the ones to actually offer those blessings, it's Krishna. We are the via medium, the conduit to pass that on. Hope that helps. Okay, we'll pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.